My name is Vincent Hurst, and this is my presentation on wireless network security. Wireless network security is a security option available for wireless routers and access points, consisting of mainly WEP, WPA, and WPA2. Wireless network security involves authentication and encryption of data transmitted wirelessly between a client and an access point. In 1997, the 802.11 Wi-Fi protocol came into use. This protocol allowed clients to connect wirelessly to access points to exchange data. This was meant to encourage company growth without the needs of cables to connect clients and access points together in LAN networks. Wireless networks were not very usable for companies early on. There were no security measures in place and anyone could connect to a wireless network. The data received was not encrypted and could easily be eavesdropped on by a hacker. This was not usable for companies to keep their data confidential. In 1999, the Wi-Fi Alliance released what is called the Wired Equivalent Privacy, or WEP. WEP was originally designed to be efficient, reasonably strong, synchronizing, and exportable out of the US. WEP was originally thought to be an unbreakable protocol. WEP authentication starts with an authentication request from the client to the access point. The access point will respond to the client with a random bit challenge and a shared secret key. The client encrypts the challenge with the shared secret key and sends it back to the access point. The access point will decrypt the sent random bit challenge. If the random bit challenge matches the random bit challenge sent, a connection will be established. WEP was originally created in only a 64-bit encryption in order to be exportable by US standards. 64-bit WEP used an RC4 cipher encryption, using a 40-bit WEP key and a 24-bit initialization vector. This was later extended to 128 bits and 256 bits for WEPs for stronger encryption. A silico redundancy check is performed on the plaintext before the data is sent and after data is received in order to ensure that data sent and received is the same data. By 2001, several vulnerabilities were known within WEP. WEP used a single key for both authentication and encryption and was easily intercepted by hackers, allowing hackers to gain access to a network. The keys will also stack and must manually be changed by a network administrator if a key was compromised. The keys could be used on multiple devices with the exact same key, and each device had to be changed manually. The 24-bit initialization vector originally thought to make WEP stronger also proved vulnerable as it was small and easily broken into also. The CRC checksum also proved to be vulnerable as the CRC checksum was not performed on ciphertext. It was possible for a hacker to intercept packets, decrypt it, change the plaintext, change the checksum value to a new value, and resend the packet encrypted to a destination, or the IP address could be changed and sent to a new destination. WEP failed to provide adequate security for the businesses that required it. It was easily broken into from a few minutes to hours, but it was still better than having no wireless security option available. If used today, newer security methods should be used when available over WEP. If WEP must be used, virtual private networks and other measures should be taken to ensure the confidentiality of your data. Businesses could not wait for a new security method to come out. In 2003, WPA was released as a temporary means to provide stronger security than WEP. WPA is meant to be forwards and backwards compatible and provide stronger encryption than WEP. It could easily run on existing hardware with just a firmware update allowing ease of use. WPA used extensible authentication protocol. Extensible authentication protocol used either a username and password combination or a certificate for credentials for authentication. Once authenticated with a server, a four-way handshake is performed between the access point and the client to establish a secure connection. WPA encryption used a 120-bit temporal key integrity protocol, or TKIP, used for encryption. Keys are dynamically generated and distributed among clients. And key hierarchy and key management methodology were used to make sure keys were not easily guessed. Keys were recreated after 10,000 packets and resent to reduce the amount of time hackers had to break into a network before a key was changed. TKIP wraps packets and encrypts data at the end of them. TKIP was made up of 3 parts: a 120-bit temporal key, the client's MAC address, and a 40-bit initialization vector. This ensured that the keys were unique for each client and keys were not repeated among multiple clients. WPA used a new Message Integrity Checksum, or MIC. MIC was a 64-bit message to ensure that data being sent was the same, using a Michel's algorithm. The checksum was of the encrypted data and was sent with an integrity value and MIC. The integrity value and MIC must both match on both the receiver and the transmitter, or the packet is dropped. WPA still has several vulnerabilities of WEP. WPA still was built on the faulty RC4 cipher of WEP. The TKIP key, while more secure than the WEP keys, was still vulnerable to attacks such as back-2 attacks. However, only data would be compromised and access would not be granted network through these attacks. WPA overall was much stronger and improved over WEP. The longer keys and were dynamically generated and unique and were harder to break through. Attacks didn't grant access to network and only compromised confidentiality of data. The checksum could also detect tampering of data too. And different keys were both used for authentication and encryption. Overall, WPA provides stronger protection than WEP, and it could easily be patched on existing hardware that was using WEP. It still has security vulnerabilities that will make it inadequate for businesses today, but it can be used with WPA2 while transferring over to newer hardware for newer security. WPA was superseded by WPA2 in 2006. WPA2 was released at the end of 2003. Wireless devices from 2004 onwards were made to support WPA2. WPA2 came in 2 versions called WPA2 PSK, or Pre-Shared Key, and WPA2 Enterprise. WPA2 Pre-Shared Key was mainly meant for home networks. A single password would be used for all devices to connect to the access point, and is considered safe as long as the connected devices are trusted. This is, however, somewhat insecure due to the use of a single password or key, and can easily be hacked into if wanted, and is not sufficient for business use but provide adequate protection for home use. WPA2 Enterprise requires a radius server to handle authentication. Each device that connects to the access point first authenticates with the server. If authentication succeeds, a connection is established between the access point and the client. WPA2 used the new Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES. AES uses the Erdendal cipher algorithm for encryption and decryption. This algorithm is capable of 128, 192, or 256 block ciphers with 128, 192, and 256-bit keys. In WPA2, only the 128-bit block cipher is used, but all 3 key sizes are still used. Higher levels of security, such as Top Secret, will use longer keys of the 192 and 256 bits. WPA2 takes encryption and places it in rounds. The number of rounds for each encryption depends on the length of the key used. For 10 rounds for 128-bit keys, for up to 14 rounds of a 256-bit key. Each round involves substitution, transposition, and mixing of plain text data to create ciphertext. When encrypting data on WPA2, data is first put into a range cipher transformations are performed. The first transformation involves using a substitution table. The second transformation involves shifting around rows of data. The third transformation involves shifting around the columns of data. The final transformation uses an exclusive OR operation on each column with different parts of the encryption key used. WPA2 uses a counter-mode cipher block chaining message authentication code protocol, or CCMP, for encryption encapsulation. 128-bit keys and 48-bit initialization vectors are used. Counter mode helps provide confidentiality, while cipher block chaining message provides integrity and authentication. WPA2 is very hard to break into as opposed to WPA and WEP counterports. There are a few known exploits though, main one being Hole 196 exploit. Hole 196 uses common group keys. It only works if the attacker is already authenticated on the network. Hole 196 will only compromise small amounts of data over a long period of time, such as 15 minutes. Unicast keys and AES encryption, however, are not compromised by its attack. This Hole 196 exploit can be prevented with client isolation mode turned on a access point. WPA2 with its advanced encryption standard provides a much more resilient security measure than WPA and its TCAP. But it requires newer hardware to run on and cannot just be upgraded with a firmware update. WPA2, however, does have very few weaknesses to its original WPA counterpart and limited loss of confidentiality from the exploits used. Wi-Fi Protected Sub was released in 2007 and is meant as a means to connect clients to access point easier. It has not been standardized and has 3 modes of connection: PIN mode, push button connect mode, and near field communication mode. Wi-Fi Protected Sub PIN mode uses an 8-digit PIN to connect the router and client that must be entered on the client or router. Push button connect mode requires client and router buttons to be pushed in very close proximity of time to each other and to enter a special connection state where they will connect to each other and secure a connection. NFC requires tapping of devices to connect. NFC is mainly used in phones and tablets. Wi-Fi Protected Sub though prevents a security risk on access points running it. It only uses an 8-digit PIN which only has 10 million possible combinations. This makes it possible for an attacker to brute force attack the PIN and gain access to your network. Wi-Fi Protected Subs should be turned off on routers with this feature and should not be enabled, for security reasons. Currently there are no new versions of wireless security being created past WPA2. WPA2 still has very limited weakness and provides more than adequate protection for wireless networks and businesses. Large amounts of resources would be required to exploit any known vulnerabilities currently in WPA2 for minimal results. Overall, wireless security has evolved greatly since 1997. WEP is a flawed wireless security measure that should be avoided, but is still better than no security measure if it must be used. WPA should generally be avoided for businesses, but will provide adequate protection for most home uses. For businesses, for maximum security, equipment should only be running WPA2 if advanced encryption standard mode and Wi-Fi Protected Sub turned off. If security is an issue, and not all devices support this new standard, those devices should have hardware upgrades immediately to support the new WPA2 with advanced encryption standard. If devices do not support advanced encryption standard, a WPA2 has advanced encryption standard with TKIP mode available until the upgrades are possible for dual modes. This concludes my PowerPoint presentation.